On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
I will help you get where you want to be at in life or financially. I will help you get there, but don't judge me based off of the materials that you see because you don't know the story behind them.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in.
What's up, everybody? Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. Today, I've got what has become now a good friendship, Aaron Abdolahifard. How are you, brother? How are you?
Good. How are you, man? Thank you for having me here.
Of course. Happy to have you. Not every time with my guests do I get to spend a little bit of time beforehand, but you and I have had a couple of talks already. So I'm anxious for this story to unfold. I'll give you the platform here, but tell us what kind of business, or in this case, maybe businesses that you have.
Okay. So I have been in construction for over 20 years, worked for people and decided to basically do my own thing and getting into building my own construction company. Grew from a very small, just a painting contractor, and then grew into remodels to renovations to flipping houses to now building houses and also getting into residential and commercial. And, the other business that we as well have is we got into the spa and health and wellness industry and opened up a fully functional spa. So those are pretty much our two primary businesses. And then right now we do have a couple other businesses that we're looking at venturing into. And we don't want any of the same industry. We want every business to be a completely different industry.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who agree with that or suggest otherwise. So maybe we'll be able to get into that. But I love the tenacity. You've kind of come at us here a little slower than normally in our previous conversations, and I mean that in a good way, meaning like you're very poised right now. And our previous conversations has been super high energy. So I'm excited to know why you're doing these different things. Obviously, construction's been your main thing for a long time. And the spa is just basically getting started. You have some expansion, maybe even franchise, I think is what you're saying. We'll get into that a little bit here in a second. But before we do all the story stuff, I want to know why. Why do you push? Like, you obviously have been successful at this level. Why are you still pushing even with the amount of success that you've had?
Because I feel like you can always learn more. And then I feel like my mentality and my attitude is I swing for the fences. A lot of people, they'll go and they'll diddle a little bit, for the spa, for example. My wife just graduating with her massage therapy and esthetician license. And most people would take the thought of, I'm going to go work for a spa, learn a little bit. I'm going to get my feet wet, build up clientele. And when I approached her with the idea, it was me approaching her, and she has a license of, I don't want my wife working for somebody else. And I feel like once you have the mindset of being an owner, you never want to downgrade or go back or, basically downgrade yourself to working for somebody once you build that mentality of like, I'm a business owner, I'm self-employed, I dictate what my success is going to be, because there's only so many hours in the day, and I don't want my wife working for somebody where she is going to do the work and they're going to potentially benefit from her work. So when she graduated, I told her, let's get into our own spa. We have no experience, no knowledge, and nothing, but the money and the finances that I've been able to make from construction has allowed me to be able to bless my wife, and bless our family to be able to get our own spa. But it's not about I, me, and us. It's we also have been given the opportunity and blessing to help other people now build their business in our spa, because our spa is not your normal hourly employee spa. We own a spa suite. So every single room, every single person that is in there with us is not a renter, they're a partner. Yeah. So we're capitalizing on the fact that we are helping others to brand, build, and market their business, but it's also benefiting us because we're making money off the rental side as now becoming a landlord and real estate and everything else and commercial development. But we know that we are helping them capitalize on the potential of how much they want to make, and they're not subjective to an hourly wage. If they want to make $10,000 in a month, they have that potential. But when you work as an hourly employee, you do not have that potential to make $10,000 in a month. I don't care what job you do. That is a very, very hard thing to do on an hourly wage employee mindset.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, obviously the hourly and then the mindset, both of those together. But what I'm hearing you say from like an angle of like why are you pushing is because you know your potential. You talked about the owner mindset. I mean, obviously there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, you know, that are ownership mindset working inside of an organization. So I think that the mindset that you're referring to is the same, whether you take the risk, you know, or you're inside of someone else's organization, very similar to your partners. Either way it can work. It's just a matter of it's just reaching for something more is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, I just feel like no matter where you're at, you can always grow into something bigger, more, learn more. I mean, you don't have to be subjective into one industry. And I feel like I always push that because I feel that the more blessings and the more financial stability that we obtain, we're able to help others grow. So that's what pushes me, is because every single thing that I have done or I do, I literally look at who I'm touching and who I'm able to help and benefit as well. Even in construction. I mean, I could have the hourly employee that I pay $20 an hour, which is a decent wage. But some of these guys, you know, off of one job, they're making $10,000 or $15,000 off of me on one scope of work, where that is not going to be possible if they're an hourly wage employee. So that's what pushes me, is if I know that I can get into an industry, my first thought is, I'm going to get into this industry and who can I help? That's my push. That is because I feel like God puts us into this world it blesses us with skills, mindset, attitude, ambition, whatever, and characteristics. And he uses us as foot soldiers so that we can basically help and benefit others. But the people that are like me, I, us, they're the ones that basically have limitations, or they have a lot more obstacles to go through, because God is like, I gave you these options, I gave you these characteristics, these skills, and you're using it for you. Right. I look at it as I'm using what I have been blessed with for others, like construction. The money from construction goes to beauty, health, and wellness. And then the money that we're going to be getting from that and that is going to go to another business. And the money from that is going to go to another business. And then we're just going to keep growing. And that's my push, is to basically help and benefit others.
Love that. Love that. Okay. So tell me about your upbringing. Tell me about before you were an entrepreneur. How did you become an entrepreneur? Was construction the first business 20 years ago? Give us a little bit of the beginnings for you.
So I am first generation American. My dad came from Iran when he was, 18 years old. My dad's family, my grandfather was actually a 5-star general in the Iranian army. So he basically lived in Tehran and was basically brought into the U.S. My mother, her mom is French, so I'm European and Iranian. And basically being brought up, my dad was a civil engineer, worked for other companies and worked for Darden Restaurants as a chief civil engineer and just worked for other companies. And then his mentality was the same as what I have obtained, is I'm tired of working for somebody. I'm going to do something for myself and my family. So he opened his own site developing company. I started working for him when I was 15 years old, literally digging ditches. That whole phrase, I literally dig ditches when I was 15 years old for my dad's company. That's right. I was knee deep in water and sanitary water, digging ditches. So I understand that concept of, your life isn't that hard. You're not digging ditches. Well, I literally did. I did it till I was about 20 years old, joined the military. I was in the Navy Seabees, which is the construction battalion that does construction in the military. So I went to Iraq, I built forward operating bases, went to Afghanistan, built forward operating bases, went to the Philippines, did water well drilling, gave fresh water to the town people in the Philippines. So my background has always been construction. I lived, breathed, was brought up in construction.
Right.
But I have always seen the entrepreneur side ever since I was a kid. because I saw my dad do it. And then my mom also owned All Events Orlando, which was a wedding planning or party event business in Orlando.
Sure.
And they actually threw a party for Anthony Hardaway and the Magic in the 90s when they went against the Bulls and did the whole championship thing. She threw a party for the Orlando Magic when they were going against the Bulls from the finals.
Cool. That's cool.
I've always been around business. That has always been my go-to. And when I worked for a company and then saw what your ceiling height is, or what you can reach for when you work for a company compared to when you own your own company, it was not even a question of like, I want to run my own business. And even did it when I was a kid. I mean, sell gum, sell cookies, sell soda. I mean, I literally, ever since I was a kid, I was selling stuff. So I've always had that entrepreneurial mindset ever since I was a kid. But then it was when it was basically one conversation with my dad where I was like, hey, I don't like how this is being run. And his answer was either shut up or get your own business. So I said, that is what I'm going to do. So I literally the next day quit, and I basically sold all my stuff and sold my truck, sold my street bike, sold all my stuff, and downgraded myself to a Nissan D21 with no window, with no handles, no AC, and sold everything, and then started my construction company.
That's incredible. First off, before we answer this question, you you said a name I haven't heard in years, Anthony Hardaway. I had some Hardaways, man. I had the shoes. Did you have the shoes?
No, I couldn't afford those.
Well, I'll tell you what. It was later when I started working, and like, I was probably a little bit dumb with how I was spending money on shoes. I just hadn't heard that name in forever. And it took me back. It got me a flashback to the white and the blue little swoop. Anyway, neither here nor there. Okay. So I want to dial into this moment where your dad says, for all intents and purposes, shut up or get your own business. In that moment, was it like, I'm going to prove you wrong? Was it like betrayal? Was it like you thought he was going to give you a different response? Like, give us the emotion of that moment for you.
I feel like we all want to make our parents proud. We all want to we want to glow. Like, we want our kids to see us as idols. And then I feel like our generation, we want to show our parents what we're capable of. And being the middle child, it is true, there is a middle child syndrome. So you're not giving everything because you're the oldest, and you're not giving everything because you're youngest. So you're kind of giving the leftovers. And so I had that mentality. And that's why when he told me that, it was more of a, I'm going to prove you wrong. Yeah. Because he would always make comments like, you don't know how hard it is, or it's not that easy, or like, you don't know when you're a worker how much it costs to run a business. Because we would run a dozer, and he's like, you're leaving the machine on. I'm like, it's not a big deal. I'm going to get on in like 5 minutes. But as an employee mindset, you're like, I'm going to get back on in 5 minutes. But that 5 minutes running at 1,000 RPMs when fuel was $2 a gallon for diesel, you can end up burning $15, $20 from it sitting there for 5 minutes. But as an employee, you don't think about that. But as a business owner now, I do think about that. So that's where it was kind of a brick to my head of like, he's like, either, shit or get off the pot, like run your own business or shut up and do what I say. And I was like, I've never wanted that. And I'm not going to have someone talk to me like that. So I'm going to run my own business, and I'm going to prove to you that I can run and build my own business. Yeah.
Well, and it sounds like he was right. I mean, there was a level of your thinking that was not where his was, which is fine. Maybe his approach, to getting you there was, neither here nor there but it was effective. It sounds like he put you in a scenario where you chose your own thing. And then because you chose your own thing, you now realize that he was right. There's all these other things in business you got to think about. And to his point, to your point, not a lot of, especially today, not a lot of today's team members, employees, staff take the time to think about all of the other things, nor should they. It's not their business, right? It's up to us to take care of that, and or even communicate that inside of our cultures, so that way they either think like an owner, or that they're aware that there could be possible issue. Like we can't just expect them to think like an owner. Would you like to add anything to that now that you've seen both sides of it?
No, I do. And that's where you do have some of the employees that are like, oh, it must be nice to buy your boat. It must be nice. And that's when you're thinking like, well, you don't know the other part of it or the other half of it. So on both sides of being an employee and being an owner, I do see the flaws of how I was as an employee when I worked for some companies or did some stuff. I mean, instead of taking a 30-minute lunch, I took an hour and a half lunch. Whereas an employee, you're like, it's just an extra hour. But as an owner, you're like, that extra hour could have made me production of 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 in that 1 hour.
Right.
So it's where we get lost. And I feel like, by not teaching that to kids or not teaching that to the next generation, it's just going to start getting diluted and worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And that's why I just feel like it's hard to know until you get in that predicament or that situation.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to know or value it until you're in that predicament.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's the gap for sure. What would you say? What would you encourage the listener to do? They're in their business right now. They've got an employee or 2 or 10, and they're having people pipe up about this. Like, oh, it must be nice. Or I can remember, on my very first Valentine's Day, we did, $120,000 or so in a week. And people can see it on the screen that we've done $120,000, and they think that I'm taking 6 figures home, going to go party after we dip a bunch of strawberries. And it's like, they didn't think about the, the labor and the 75 people I had working and, all this stuff. Right. So what would you suggest to the listener right now, if they're dealing with that, like you and I both have, to be able to maybe communicate differently or to get over that with some of their folks? Like, how do they deal with that situation if they're experiencing that right now?
So, I mean, I have been asked that. Even some of my guys do make comments and stuff. And the way that I've approached it in one situation or one story is I pulled up to a job site. We were getting ready to leave for the Keys, and I had my boat attached to my truck, and we pulled up because it was on our way out. And of course, one of my guys is like, it must be nice that you get to go on your boat while we're working. And I basically explained to him, he was kind of a new subcontractor. And I basically told him, I was like, look, man, you don't know where everything started. You don't know the struggles that I had to go through. But at the same time, I'm not going to tell you the things that you buy, purchase, or do. I'm not going to judge you based off of that. And I don't think it's fair for you to do the same to me because you don't know the struggles. Everyone goes through different struggles. But then I explained to him, I will help you. I will help you get to a point that where you want to be at in life or financially. I will help you get there. But don't judge me based off of the materials that you see, because you don't know the story behind them. And if you want to ask me or you want to know like what I had to do to get to that position, I have no problem sharing with you. But I don't feel that it's right for you to judge, question, or label me in a certain manner because based off of what you see. Yeah, and the conversations will be different. I mean, that employee, they might be doing something different where that employee is just pissed off because they can't afford their car or whatever the situation is. So every conversation is going to be completely different, but I try to approach it more in a sense of how I want to know what you want in life and I want to help you get there. But some people just don't want that. They just want a handout, or they make excuses of, I don't have money, but then they're sleeping or they're not working. They're 24 hours a day and they're working 5 hours of the day and they're on Facebook the other, whatever many hours are on Facebook. But then they're blaming everybody else in society, and they're blaming everybody of why they're not at their point of financially where they want to be. Yeah.
So I think the determining, or what you're really kind of maybe deciphering here is there will be people who don't want to know the answer. They really, it's more of a bad attitude category. And really determining those people or figuring out who those people are and then moving on from those people is probably some of the best advice that I think a business owner can take, is because eventually that will deteriorate the team, the morale. The culture really needs to be around. Like if you want it, go get it. Right. I mean, I have people on my team or different parts of my teams, and hey, I want to make this amount of money, or hey, I want to be able to invest in real estate, or hey, I want to be able to do this for my family, whatever. It's like, great. Let's work together on how you can do that, because that's the type of person like you and me. even though back in the day, we both had limited thinking, we all do, we still wanted more. We still wanted to figure out like, well, how did you do that? Right? When you see the guy with the boat, you don't think that must be nice. You think, dang, how do I get a boat? Or whatever the boat represents to each of us. And so I think it's a good distinction. If you've got the people on your team right now as a listener who are saying things like, must be nice to have the boat, or whatever the boat represents, that's a pretty clear indicator, at least for me, that maybe this isn't the right person, or maybe this isn't the person I want to build a team around. What I want more so is, nice boat, can you help me? And that's tough, because a lot of times people don't want to do the extra. They don't understand the struggle we've been through. But I think as much of it is the struggle, it's like, man, like, wouldn't you want to know how? Like, I made some good decisions along the way. Wouldn't you want to know? But to your point, some people don't. So anything you want to add here to this kind of like employee culture, attitude conversation that we're having here before we move on?
I mean, the employee culture, I one thing I could definitely tell the listeners is, in the very beginning of doing construction, I did have employees. I had only employees, and it was $8,000-$9,000 a week that I was paying in employees. And it was until I figured how to restructure my business is when I started making money, because I took all my guys from employees to now subs. And then that also allowed me to be able to help build them, because as a subcontractor, when they ask me about the whole boat or car, or, hey, it must be nice, or, hey, how do I get there? As a subcontractor, I tell them, I can help you build or expand your business in this way by me giving you this advice. And then it makes them happy because they see the production or they see the results.
Sure.
So that when they come out and do my job, they're more happy because I'm paying them what they're worth as a subcontractor than them feeling their worth based off their hourly wage.
Right.
So I always try to tell people, like, look at how you can restructure your business. Not every single business has to be the traditional structure. Most construction companies are employees. I'm a very rare construction company that all my guys are all subcontractors. I have no employees. So that just helps out, because now I don't have the guy that I have to worry about the hourly wage. Now I tell my painter, hey, look, I got this job. I need you to come in. How much do you want? That's the difference in mindset. How much do you want to paint this house? $5,000. Okay, I can get you $5,000. If he was an hourly employee, he would make a couple thousand.
Sure.
So that's where I feel like every person in business, and I got friends that are trying to do their own business or whatever, I tell them, figure out how to structure your business where it benefits others, which is going to motivate them to want to work for you and with you. And then also try to restructure your business so that you have the highest potential earning or the highest potential in your industry.
Yeah. Lots of good stuff there. I think that there's a big divide, really. And it'd be interesting to have a panel of people who agree with this and disagree with this to be able to have a quality conversation, because there's goods and bads, right? To both, the 1099 approach and the employee approach. I think that there can be, maybe dependent upon industry, maybe dependent upon life cycle of the business, how long it's been around, or what the objective of the business is. I think there's some certain things that you can do and not do in both of those scenarios. So I appreciate your opinion on that.
Hey, Kings and Queens, Chaz Wolfe. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other. Let's help each other grow.
Tell me about a good decision that you made early on before 1 million in revenue that would be helpful for the listener to take a note of.
So the one good decision that I made was basically stop trusting stories.
Okay.
And
what do you mean by that?
So I say that because in construction, real estate, you probably heard it a million times. If you help me with this job, I will give you more. if you help me do this, I will give you more. And I base it off of one of the stories. So I used to kind of renovate houses for a guy. He basically gave me a house. He's like, look, and this is kind of where it broke my business, but then it helped me grow my business at the same exact time. Because he gave me a house. He said, I need you to help me renovate this house so that I can flip it. He's like, I don't have the money. He's like, I'm trying to, I have some funds that are tied up. I was starting to grow my business and make more money. So I basically put out all the money and helped him renovate the entire house based off of his story, telling me, if you help me do this, I will give you a profit margin. If you help me do this, I will give you more houses. I've got a bunch more houses lined up ready for you if you help me with this. Yeah. So I helped him do it. He flipped the house. I got completely screwed, never got paid, never got anything out of the property. So that is where I tell people, don't trust stories, trust facts. If he would have said, here, I'm going to have a contract with you where I'm going to give you 25% of what I sell for this house because you're floating the money. I'm going to pay you back, plus give you interest and also give you like some type of profit from when selling it. But then also, here's the addresses for the other houses. Let's go walk them. Let's get a game plan going. Right. That's where I always say, don't trust stories, trust facts. Because everybody always has a story of how they want to help you or what they want to do. But if you help me do this first, then I'll help you do that. Yeah. Yeah. I have, I'll give 2 extra cents on that. It's not really from like a trusting from like a promise of new work. It was actually on the reverse. It was me as an investor talking to the contractor, but we have a contract and, everything's in place. We're paying them for the job. It's not your deal, but it's the same principle that you just said, which is not accepting a story. And the story had been, we're getting close. We're just got a couple more things to do. Just very rounded answers, in essence, both of us. And we can all relate to this. We've had a partner, we've had an employee, we've had a vendor, 1099, we've had a sub tell us these very rounded answers. And it was a good experience for my partner because he got to see me in like direct. He had been handling it and accepting these rounded answers. And it's like, okay, great. So when you say we're almost done, how many days? Well, it should be 3. And when you say should, does that mean 3 or does that mean possibility of 3? Like just dissecting literally the language that you're using. Like you just said, if there's more houses, great. What are the addresses? Great. When are we going to go see them? Okay, great. When are we starting those projects? Great. What's the contract look like? Like you just keep dialing it, boiling it all the way down. So that way you can get out of this story form like you're talking about, because I'm with you. And people give these rounded answers and then surprisingly, other people accept it. It's crazy to me. Yeah, that's what caused me to it kind of broke my company because I put out lots and lots of money and I trusted in the beginning every single realtor, because that in that time flipping houses was like the trend. I mean, it kind of still is, but it was major trend. So everybody was calling me, hey, I heard you do good work. I saw you on social media. Can you come give me a price? And then I started trusting and believing. And then it's when I was like, no. Now I run my business as in here's my price, either pay it or don't. I want money up front. So that's where it broke, but it built my business at the same time, because once I knew that I don't trust stories, now when I go do a job, I want 50% up front, wire transfer or cashier's check to my account. And once that goes through, I'll send you a paid receipt so that we're both on the same level, because I stopped trusting stories and I started trusting facts. And the facts are first draw, half deposit, whatever the case is. And they do that. And then boom, houses get done. I've done hundreds of houses. I've done hundreds of projects, and there's never been an issue. The ones that tell me the stories of I will give you this, this, and this, and this have always been an issue, have always been a nightmare time and time again. That's why now I don't even listen to the stories. I'm like, that's good. Tell somebody else. Yeah, it's good. I as I was just listening to you, the phrase that keeps coming to my mind is some people talk, some people do. And the doers have no problem with contracts, right? Because it actually further explains whether it's you and the client, you and the vendor, contractor versus investor, like whatever the scenario. For somebody who shies away from a contract, it further
professionalizes the situation and it makes it real. And I think that people shy away from it because, like that guy, he had maybe ill intention, or he didn't really know what was going to happen, and he didn't really want to be held to it. But the reality of it is that if you can come together and be on the equal playing field, here's what I'm going to do, here's what you're going to do, and here's the equal exchange of value, then now you're providing like an actual give and take, a reciprocity of sorts. So that way things, not like projects, can get done, but then the next one, and then the next one. And then now we're building a relationship. And now we're doing things over the course of 5 and 10 and 20 years, really helping people, kind of going back to the very first thing that you talked about, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, tell me about a bad decision. You kind of wrapped maybe a good and bad decision up in one in that one, but tell me about just a terrible thing that you did that was just like, oh my gosh. Give me that story.
I mean, every business, there's a lot of those. I mean, you trust people, you hire the wrong people. And I feel like it's just a thing within time that it just takes. I mean, like our last question was, with the employee thing, I was hiring everybody based off what they said. And then I was just going through people. But now, since the business has been around for so long, that I filtered out the BS, and now I have a good, solid team. Yeah. So, and I built that team. Like, I had to hire 5 different concrete crews to find the 2 that I use now.
Right.
And I mean, a lot of those is just the bad part. That's the bad part about business. And it's funny because I had just today, like, I'm going to start trying to get into some other stuff. And one of the guys told me, he's like, you cannot be married to your business or the money emotionally, because you're going to lose that one day. I mean, there's been a day that I lost $5,000 in one day, but then that month I made 20 grand. So people that have, like, when they're getting into business, they're like, I want to make sure that I'm always profitable every single dollar. But if your mentality is that, it's going to be very hard for you to grow your business, because you're going to be married to every single dollar. And I feel like getting into business, that's your bad every single day. But you just have to realize that the overall picture is the positive. You might lose $5,000 in one day, but you made $20,000 in that month. So you're still in the green. Now, if you're losing money every single day, every single week and month, then you might need to find a different business to get into, because you should not always be in the red. And that's where I feel like that's a daily bad in the business. You're always going to have bad. It's not going to be positive 24/7. And you just have to realize that and accept it.
Yeah, it's a good mindset. Obviously, a good reminder, I think, for everybody listening, even for myself. I like how you used it in a couple of different examples too. You said, I had to go through 5 concrete crews to find the 2 that I used. What that means is that you spent time, money, energy on 3 crews that probably were frustrating, or took too much time, or, you didn't make any money. Like, some sort of resource of yours was overspent in the red, and for you to be able to figure out they weren't the right ones. And we do the same thing with SOPs, creating new projects, hiring new people, starting new businesses. We do these same things over and over, which the mindset that I'm hearing you say, and tell me if I'm wrong or if you want to add anything, is that there's going to be a certain kind of, like, almost like minefield that you have to go through, but you have to get to the other side. Once you get to the other side, you learn a bunch, but there's going to be a couple of times where you step on a couple of booms, if you will, but those even in themselves are learning opportunities. Would you add anything to that?
No, 100%, because I had to go through 5 concrete crews to find the 2 that I used. And I use that as the main example, because it's pretty much the foundation of everything, every house, every building. Yeah. But like you said, I had to go through the BS. I lost a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of frustration, because there was a couple of jobs where the concrete was done wrong and I had to rip it out and redo it. Yeah. But now, because I've done it, now I can pinpoint, and I know when they're BSing. So if I want to go and find another concrete crew, let's say another one falls out and I need to find another one, within 5 minutes, I could tell if they're BSing or not. And I could tell if they know what they're doing. Same thing with tile. I have a tile guy that I use. And in the beginning, I trusted every tile person. I had to redo tile a couple of times. But now, when I see a tile guy start in the corner of a wall, I know that he's doing it wrong, because your main start points need to be a sliding glass door or the center of the room. So by me having to go through those tile people to get where I have now, I could tell within 5 minutes if someone's doing the tile wrong, the drywall wrong, the painting, the concrete, the framing. I could tell within 5 minutes if someone's BSing. But that took the bad days to now it's a positive. So for people to be like, I don't want any negatives or no bad, how do I get past that? Well, you're not going to. You got to go through the bad to get to the good. I don't care what industry, what business, what placement, what tax bracket you're in, you're going to have the bad to get to the good.
Yeah. Yeah. I said this, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 years ago. I was on a podcast guesting like you are. And I said that my failures, or in this case, the frustrations, the time spent, the money, those things that we kind of like call failures, they're dues. And I just wanted to hurry up and pay them. I wasn't trying to avoid them. I just wanted to hurry up and get through them. Like if this is the list, if I got to find, the things about painting, foundation work, the tile, or for someone else's business, it could be how to run a campaign, how to hire a sales team, like whatever the frustration point is. It doesn't really matter the tactic or the task. What matters is that there's going to be failures along the way, like you're saying. And I just wanted to okay, if I got to do them, how do I just do them faster? Let's just get through it. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think podcasts like this and books and getting around other high performing entrepreneurs help us identify those moments so that we can get through them faster or potentially navigate around them. But to your point, you can't escape them at all, like completely. But when you go through them, you can acknowledge that you're going through one. You can write down the things that are working or not working. You can record maybe a new process that you want to go through afterwards. You can set new targets afterwards. You can get rid of people that don't work. Like we can go through it and go, okay, like I can get benefit of still going through it, even though maybe I was trying to get around it, but I couldn't. There's still benefit in going through it. You want to add anything before we move on?
No, I was going to say that was going to be my point, was that you're not going to go through it. But if you're so focused on trying to hurry up and get through it, you're not going to pay attention and you're going to repeat it. Yeah. So that's what I mean, my son's 8 years old and I tell him all the time, and he does XMA, he does tricking. And I tell him, he's like, I don't want to fail. I don't want to fall. I don't want to fail. And he's like, and he told me, I don't want to fail you. And I was like, dude, you will never fail me. But the one thing I can tell you is I'd rather you fail 1,000,000 times than fail the same thing 1,000,000 times.
Yeah.
So that's where people in business, I feel like if they're trying to hurry up and get through a process because they want to get through the bad, the problem is if they don't pay attention and they don't know what they're doing bad,
right,
then they're going to repeat it and they'll always think that every single day is bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's good perspective. Okay, let's go speed round questions here. My first question to you is this. If you could take your business, we'll take a construction business, for example, and I want you to dwindle it down into one trackable metric. What's the one thing that you would track forever and ever?
What do you mean track?
What's the one trackable metric that you would pick if you can only pick one thing to track inside your business? Like, are you tracking money? Are you tracking sales? Are you tracking customer satisfaction? Are you tracking reviews? Are you tracking projects done? Like, what would be the one thing that you would pick to track forever and ever if you could only pick one?
I probably track the profit margin. And I say that because every job, like I don't touch my profit until I know what my profit is. A lot of guys, they'll get a big check. They'll go buy a brand new truck or a car. I want to track my profit because that's the money that I'm going to use to either help others, expand others, or build another business. So if I don't know what my profit is, if I don't know what I actually make, then I'm not going to be able to expand.
Yep, makes perfect sense. What book would you recommend, Aaron, for a 6-figure business owner trying to get to that $1 million mark?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think it's Don't Cut Up Credit Cards or How to Become Rich. I don't know the exact name for the book, but it's not the Rich Dad, Poor Dad that everyone knows. It's the other book that people really don't even know about.
Okay, good. Well, we'll take a look at it, put it in the show notes. What's your takeaway from that book?
I just like how he already went through the Rich Dad Poor Dad book where he basically had the two dads explaining the wealthy and the different mindsets. This one bases off of people that already have that mindset to grow more. Yeah. Like how to become, because everyone has the mentality of rich and wealth, but they're completely different. They're completely different. You can be rich and make money daily, but if you're wealthy, you're being made money no matter what you're doing, whether you're sleeping, whether you're on vacation. That's wealth. Rich is you have to put in the work every single day to get the rich.
Yeah. Interesting. That's good. It's good. Okay. Last question for you here, Aaron. If you lost it all, my friend, what would you do?
If I lost the construction company, I lost all my businesses for whatever reason, I would probably just teach others that are getting into business. I'm not going to teach them how to like, miss the bad days or whatever, but it's more of that motivational of like, this is what I see you doing from an outer view. This is what I would do. This is what I did to help, because you're going to go through it, but I can help guide you and follow you through it. Yeah. And kind of show you different ideas of how to make it better instead of worrying about and dwelling on the bad.
Well, you ended the show the same way you started, by saying that you love helping people. And so you've done that. Not only just expressed how you would do that if you lost it all, but literally the last 45 minutes, you've given us so many things from your story that have helped you be successful. And I think that plenty of takeaways for the listener to be able to, go apply in their business. So you've got energy, you got passion. I'm excited to know you. How can the listener find you if they want to connect with you further from here?
So they can email me at partnerinconstruction@gmail.com. They can also look at Zen Space Oviedo on Facebook, on Instagram. That is our spa. It is Zen Space, ZEN Oviedo. And I do reach out to on emails and stuff like that. I do respond. I do have a couple organizations that I work with, teens that are wanting to be entrepreneurs, and they reach out to me on their emails, and I tell them, or they say, hey, I want to open up this. What are your thoughts? And I explain to them, I give them, coaching on stuff like that.
Sure.
So if I received an email from a listener that was like, hey, I want to get into construction, like, what are your guidelines, or what do you think? I have no problem with answering or guiding somebody to make sure that their construction company is successful the way that I've been able to build mine.
That's great, man. You're obviously one that's always willing to help, and you've expressed that here today in multiple ways. So thank you for just the time that you've given here today. And we wish you nothing but blessing on your family, kiddos, all that fun stuff. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, you too, man. I appreciate you giving me the time to talk to you and your listeners and kind of hopefully help that one person that's struggling.
That's what it's all about. Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.